Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It is me, Alana. For this video, I am going to be talking about my March TBR. Alright, so for the month of March, I have a few books that I have my radar to read. I'm going to be completely transparent. February was like a weird month for me reading-wise in regards to like, I don't know, I felt like my brain hit like a slow-mo, and I read books. I just like, in my brain, I felt like I was ahead on my TBR, but when I really looked at what was happening, I was behind. I don't really know how to explain that mess up, but while I did get through some books on my TBR, I didn't get through all of the ones I wanted, so I decided to let some of those roll over into March and then add a few more that I had been wanting to read and hope for the best. Alright, so the first book I have on my list is the third book in the House of Night series, Chosen by PC and Kristen Cass. So by the time I am filming this video, I am pretty much almost done with book number 2, and that means I can go ahead and jump into book number 3. I can't go into much detail about this, considering it is book number 3, but this series follows a girl named Zoe Redbird who is becoming a vampire, and this story and the series follows her journey entering in the House of Night school, which is a school for vampires, and her journey into becoming the next great priestess, high priestess chosen by their goddess Nyx. And so in this series, she is gonna go through like the ups and downs of being a teenager, but also the ups and downs of being a vampire, and then the middle ground of her being a teenage vampire. So there's some like baddies, there's some teenage drama, angst, all that kind of stuff in this series, and so I am working to hopefully read the entire thing by the end of this year. So, on my journey, now I am on book 3, which is typically where I've stopped with this series before, and so I'm intrigued to see, because I don't remember really book 3, so I'm intrigued to read it, kind of hopefully refresh my memory on what happens, and then hopefully go beyond book 3 in April. The next book I have on my list that I didn't get to, and I think I actually plan to pick up next, is Water Moon by Samantha Sotoyambao. So I meant to read this in February. I had the audiobook all queued up. I took a little bit longer on some of the reads that I started with, so this one kind of got pushed off a bit more, but that's okay. I'm really excited to check this out. I think it's going to be a really interesting, fun read. It kind of gives me maybe contemporary fantasy vibes, where this lady, apparently she like buys or becomes the new owner of this magical pawn shop where people drop off their like wishes and intentions. And so I think the premise was saying like something goes missing or is stolen, and her and a stranger have to basically go on a journey to get it back. That's all I know, and that's kind of all I want to know. I feel like this is a book where I want to go in with the least amount of knowledge possible, because I feel like that is gonna help make the atmosphere of this book much more enjoyable for me. The next book I have on my list is Tale of the Heart Queen by Nisa J. Tooley. This is the 4th book in the, I can't remember the official name for this series, but the Trial of the Sun Queen quartet. I read the 3rd book in January, and my plan was to read this in February, but again, my reading took a little longer with certain books, so I decided that March will be the month that I read this, which is probably for the best, because the way that book 3 ended, I definitely needed a minute to just kind of process and consume it, and so I feel like this was a good time break to have before diving into this last book, just because with the way the 3rd book ended, I know it's going to be really heavy, and I feel like starting this book is going to be really heavy. The premise of this series is there's a woman named Lore who has been imprisoned by the Aurora King for a good chunk of her life, and she kind of gives you a little bit of a reason why, but you really don't know why he's locked her away. And so she eventually in the first book broken out of that prison by the Sun King, and she is forced to take part in his competition to become the next Sun Queen. She doesn't necessarily know why he's broken her out of the jail. She doesn't know why he wants her to take part in this competition. She does see this competition as an opportunity to gain her freedom back, and so she dives right in and goes from there. And as she does, she kind of starts to learn that not everything and everybody is who they claim to be. So with this series too, you're not only getting her viewpoint, you're also getting the viewpoint of the son of the Aurora King. And so in the first book, you're trying to figure out what his deal is. Like, is he aligned with his father? Is he his own person? And why is he so curious about lore and who she is and why she's connected to his father. I really enjoyed this series so far. I think it's really fun. I'm really nervous and interested to see how this is gonna go, because with the way the third book ended, this book, I'm expecting it, or I believe it's gonna start off with like no holds bar, like everybody's gonna die because of the way certain events take place at the end of book 3. So really excited to see how that goes and how everybody gets through that. The next book I have on this list is Gold by Raven Kennedy. Yeah, this is book 5 of the Plated Prisoner series. I know it came out last year or the year before, but I was waiting for the audiobook to hit, which it came out finally in February. I was waiting for the audio to come out before I officially got to reading it. So now that it's out, my plan is to read that and then finally go ahead and read the audiobook for Goldfinch, since it does come out in March. And then I will be officially done with the series and I can cry my tears. This series probably is one of my favorite romantasy series. It's starts off a little rocky with the first book, but I think as you get further into the series, the rest of the books really hold up and show how good this series is. And I definitely recommend it as a good intro to romantasy if you're just trying to find like a series or a set of books to really start you off. Mostly because it's already finished, but also I feel like they're really easily consumable and it's really not hard to learn about the world and the characters. The series is a King Midas retelling, but it is from the viewpoint of his favored, Orin. Yeah. And she has been kept in this gilded cage for about a couple years when the story starts. And so Midas is the only one that really has a claim over her. And she starts to eventually realize as she gets further into the series that maybe Midas is not this savior and protector like he claims to be. And maybe he's actually, and maybe all the things that she has been told have been essentially lies. And so the rest of this series is her kind of figuring out who she is and what she believes and where she stands in regards to the world and some of the political things happening. And yeah, I just really love it, and I'm really excited to finally be able to read Gold and see what happens next. The next book I have on my list is Educated by Tara Westover. This is a book that I'm reading for a special project, but I have been really wanting to read this book for a really long time. It is a nonfiction, and I believe it's about a woman who grew up in a family where education just wasn't very important. And I think she ended up being maybe one of the few of her family that did seek out actually becoming educated and higher education. And I think it's her story. It's her story with that and her family. That's kind of the gist of what I know. But I'm really interested just because we're in some really weird times right now, at least in the US. And I feel like more than anything right now, education is just such an important topic. And I feel like this is a good book to really represent that topic and read at this moment in time. And then the last book I have on my list is The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. All I really know is that this is, I believe it's a literary fiction. It is about, in this book, people start receiving boxes on their doorsteps, and within the boxes is basically something telling them how long they have left to live. And so I guess the premise is people start to question, like, do they really want to know how long they have left to live, or do they want to keep it as a mystery? That's all I know, but I actually was really intrigued by this, just because I feel like the concept of like living forever and knowing when your death date is and all that kind of stuff is always such a tricky topic, and it's always interesting, and I feel like it always spawns interesting conversations. So I figured this would be a very like fun, if not interesting, read to pick up. Alright, so those are all of the books that I'm going to be trying to read in March. I may add a few in depending on how this reading month goes. I may not, but you will definitely find out in the wrap-up eventually. If you like the video, please like it down below. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, please leave all that in the comment section. And if you want to see more videos from me, please hit that subscribe button. You are all so flowers and wolf with me.